J.D. Vance has arrived in Israel, probably to keep Netanyahu in line. Why is J.D. Vance in Israel? So he arrives today. This is his first state visit to Israel. I'll at least give him that. It's his first one since he's been in office. He's been to various different other countries, India, France. He's done a couple of other stops, but now he's going to Israel. Why would Trump send J.D. Vance to Israel? Because I really think it's to make sure this peace agreement holds. Well, what is J.D. Vance going to do when it comes to the Palestinians? Nothing. So who's he going to make sure that this peace agreement holds? Who's he going to be meeting with to make sure of that? Oh, the Israelis. So I think they sent J.D. Vance there because they're afraid, they're wanting to explain to the Israelis, look, you've got to uphold this deal. Like, this is important, and we're not going to allow you to back down. J.D. Vance, while he's there, says there will be no American troops in Gaza to help with the rebuild project. This is what he has to say.
I think it's important for Americans to know a couple of things. Number one, there are not going to be American boots on the ground in Gaza. The President of the United States has made that very clear. All of our military leadership has made that very clear. What we can do is provide some useful coordination. How do you take, the Gulf Arab states, plus Israel, plus plus the Turks, plus the Indonesians? How do you actually get those folks to work together in a way that actually produces long-term peace? The only real mediators are the United States of America. And so that's the role that we're going to play. I think the American people should be proud of it, but they should know that there are going to be no American boots on the ground in Gaza.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm glad he clarified that. I don't know if that really makes the Israelis feel any better. Maybe, because the Israelis want the land for themselves, right? They don't want those Christian boots on the ground soiling it, because God promised that land to Jews, not to Christians, not to Muslims, not to anybody else. So maybe they don't want American troops there either. Here's J.D. Vance lying through his teeth, saying the ceasefire is going better than expected. Okay, I don't know what you mean by that.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to have you. Look, I think that we are 1 week into President Trump's historic peace plan in the Middle East, and things are going, frankly, better than I expected that they were. This is a very, very tough situation. You have two peoples, two enemies who have fought a very tough conflict against each other. You have a terrorist organization on one hand that murdered a lot of innocent people. You've got an Israeli army that was defending itself on the other that has learned a lot over the past couple of years. And then, of course, you have an innocent civilian population in Gaza that's caught in the middle. But we're here at the Civilian Military Cooperation Center, which we are announcing the opening of. You have Israelis and Americans working hand in hand to try to begin the plan to rebuild Gaza, to implement a long-term peace, and to actually ensure that you have security forces on the ground in Gaza, not composed of Americans, who can keep the peace over the long term. So we've got a lot of work left to do. This is going to take a very, very long time, but I think Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and Admiral Cooper behind me have done an incredible job. I want to say just a couple of quick things, and then I want to turn it over to Steve Witkoff. Number one, the Israeli government has been remarkably helpful in this. I want to thank them, thank our Israeli partners, and all the folks, particularly who are working hand in hand with their American friends here at the CMCC. And number two, I want to say that there is this weird attitude I've sensed in the American media and the Western media, where there's almost this desire to root for failure, that every time something bad happens, that every time that there's an act of violence, there's this inclination to say, oh, this is the end of the ceasefire, this is the end of the peace plan. It's not the end. It is, in fact, exactly how this is going to have to happen when you have people who hate each other, who have been fighting against each other for a very long time. We are doing very well. We are in a very good place. We're going to have to keep working on it, but I think we have the team to do exactly that. So with all thanks to our partners, both in Israel, but all across the Gulf Arab states, Indonesia, the Turks, we are doing an amazing thing here, and I'm particularly proud of the American troops working at the command center who are coordinating this effort and making it possible.
Interesting he said that. Interesting he said, every time something bad happens, the media comes out and says, oh, that's the end of the ceasefire deal. He's really talking about the pro-Israel side. They're just, anytime, anything, they're just, that's it. See, we can't have peace with these people. Go in there and finish the job. Take the land. We eradicate them. You get these genocidal maniacs. And he's saying this to Israelis in Israel. Of course, it's being broadcast to us, but he's saying this to them because he's basically saying, look, this is how it goes. Bad things are going to happen back and forth, but it's still peaceful. We're still having a peace agreement. Damn it. I'm not going to let you break it. I'm not going to let you have an excuse. Use any excuse that you can to break it and go bombing again. We're not going to do that. So quit the weirdness. Let's not do that. I think it's good that he said that because I think it shows that the administration is going to say, look, you know what? Tough it out. Tough nuts, Netanyahu. You're just going to have to, bad things are going to happen. IDF soldiers are going to be killed. Clearly, you guys are still killing Palestinians. But this is going to be the peace agreement, and that's the end of it. And I don't want to hear any more of it. And I'm not going to let you taint me or make a fool out of me. And I think that's why he sent J.D. Vance there. Now, the big question is J.D. Vance going to go and kiss the Wailing Wall? I think that's, we'll keep an eye out. We'll see. Does he do the full Israeli pilgrimage, or is he going to go and kiss the Wailing Wall? We'll keep our eye out. While J.D. Vance is in Israel, we don't know if he's going to do what all the politicians do, what he has done before, which is go visit the Wailing Wall and kiss it and wave the Israeli flag and pledge your allegiance to Israel in your annual pilgrimage. We're not sure if he's going to do that yet, but one thing he does say he's going to do is visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This is interesting because there's been some trending topics, some trending, I'd say, conversation going on around the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and how it is able to still stand. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the site that of Jesus's, it's the proclaimed site where Jesus was crucified. And they built a church on it. It's where his tomb is. It's where it's thought, it's actually the most sacred place in all of Christianity. Here is J.D. Vance saying he's going to visit this church.
As a Christian, I think the world's Christians will know that this country, that this region of the world means a great deal to me. And at some point today, I hope to go, or at some point in the next couple of days, I should say, I hope to go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which Christians believe is the site that Jesus Christ was crucified in. And I know that Christians have many titles for Jesus Christ, and one of them is the Prince of Peace. And I'd ask all people of faith, in particular my fellow Christians, to pray that the Prince of Peace can continue to work a miracle in this region of the world. I think that we have made incredible strides over the past week. We're going to have to make a lot more, but I think with your prayers, with God's providence, and with a very good team behind me, I think we're going to get it done. Thank you all.
Okay, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. What's interesting about it, it is based in Jerusalem. It has recently been trending because a lot of people online have been, Tommy Robinson in particular. So Tommy Robinson he's been visiting Israel. He went to the Church of Holy Sepulchre himself and he said, thank God for the Jews, basically. I mean, he's since changed the tweet. I actually don't see what his original tweet said, but he has since edited it. But it originally said something along the lines of, thank God for the Jews. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't have this Church of the Holy Sepulchre to go in and visit, the site of Jesus's crucifixion, the site of Jesus's tomb. What a wonderful thing, basically, is what he says. And it's the Jews that have protected these holy sites for us. And then I see J.D. Vance says he's going to go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, so I thought I'd bring this up. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is actually protected by Muslims. In fact, many of the Christian sites that are valuable to Christians are also valuable to Muslims and protected by Muslims. Muslims believe Jesus to be the Messiah. They don't believe he's the Christ, but they believe he's the Messiah. They believe that he is a prophet. Whenever you hear a Muslim talk about Jesus, he'll say, peace be upon him, like they say after they say Muhammad or anybody else, they'll say peace be upon him. They love Jesus. In their Quran, they have an entire chapter dedicated to the Mother Mary. They protect Jesus's sites. They tend to Jesus's sites because to them, Jesus is one of their main prophets. He's not in the Christianity. He's central to Islam. He's not central, but he is key, one of the main people. In Judaism, Jesus is nobody. He was a heretic. His mother was a heretic. That was it. So that's one thing that I find interesting whenever I hear people talking about Judeo-Christian values. I can somewhat understand that, the idea of Judeo-Christian values, in that Christianity is fundamentally a sect of Judaism because Christianity came about basically proclaiming this is fulfilled Judaism. So when they say Jesus was a Jew or that, and the people that followed Jesus were Jews, well, yeah, not in today's sense, because today's sense rejects Christianity entirely of Judaism. Today's sense of Judaism is rabbinic, and it rejects that Jesus is the Christ. At that time, the Jews that followed Jesus believed that Jesus was the Christ, and that they were still following Judaism, but now it's fulfilled and completed Judaism. That then later got renamed to Christianity. So Jesus never, for one, well, I don't want to get into that whole debate of whether or not Jesus was actually a Jew. I still assert he was never really, because Jesus knew if you're a Christian, you can't believe Jesus was ever a Jew. It's totally illogical, because you believe as a Christian that Jesus knew that he knew what his job was when he was born. He knew before he was born, he was all-knowing all the time. So if that's the case, if he was all-knowing all the time, he knew before he was born that he was the Christ, making him no longer Jewish in today's terms of Jewish. We call it Christian now. We had to rename it because not all the Jews believed, and they continued to call themselves Jews. And so in order to differentiate, they had to change the name, and they changed it to Christians. So it's just a semantics issue. But you'd have to believe as a Christian that Jesus always knew. And then you'd have to believe that there were a lot of people who had the prophecy, and they also believed. That's why we get the stories of like the three wise men, and we got Mother Mary knew, like she knew, and her husband knew, and there was a lot of followers, and they knew. They all knew. So it wasn't like they later discovered Jesus was the Christ. It wasn't like they were first Jewish, they didn't believe, and then suddenly they were like, oh, I believe now. So now, no, Jesus himself, I mean, I'm sure some followers were like that, where they had to be convinced and they converted. So they were Jewish and then they were not. I can go with that. But Jesus himself, if you are a Christian, you believe he was always all-knowing before birth, during his birth, that he knew everything all the time. That means he believed in Christianity. He was a Christian. If you believe in Christianity, then he was a Christian from birth, from before birth, in fact, because he already knew the plan. So, but Muslims don't believe that, right? Muslims believe he was a prophet. They believe he's really important, but they don't believe that he was the Christ. They believe he's the Messiah, a bit of a different. Christians believe he's the Christ and the Messiah. Muslims, because of that, have protected all these holy sites. And the Church of the Holy Sepulchre has been, the two Muslim families have been actually maintaining the Church of the Holy Sepulchre this whole time. It's in Jerusalem, it's in the Christian quarter, but Christians kept fighting. They couldn't agree with each other on who was going to get the keys to the church and who was going to run it and all of this. And so the Muslim king kind of came along and said, you know what, you guys, you're going to burn the place down. You guys fight so much. So we're going to take the keys and we're going to protect it. And to this day, these two Muslim families still have the keys to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And they're the ones who protected it this entire time. Muslims have been protecting Christians' holiest site. In fact, Muslims have been protecting Christians' holiest sites, including Bethlehem, which is in Palestine. Christians forget this, and they say silly things, like Tommy Robinson saying, if it weren't for the Jews, we wouldn't have the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. That's not true. It's actually because of the Muslims. You can thank them, but you don't want to because you can't believe it. You just can't believe it. So it's just interesting to me. Now, J.D. Vance is going to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I would much rather look, like if you're Jewish, that makes sense to me. If you're a Jewish politician, which we do have some, and we should have some in our country, we do have a higher percentage, I get it, of Jews representing in Congress than the population, but so we have a lot higher percentage of white men representing in Congress too. It makes sense to me if you're Jewish and you go and you kiss the Wailing Wall or you do whatever it is you do at the Wailing Wall. That makes sense to me. But not wave an Israeli flag as an American. I will never accept that. I don't care what your religion is. And it would be way more appropriate to see J.D. Vance going and praying at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Although I don't know why the photo ops around this is just so gross. Why even taking photo ops around the Wailing Wall? I mean, you know why they're doing it. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing photo ops of a private prayer moment, but people do it because they're just signaling. It's a virtue signal. See, I'm on your side. Don't Epstein me. See, I'm on your side. But we'll see what just about said Charlie Kirk, because I was thinking, don't Charlie Kirk me. We'll see what J.D. Vance does with these pictures, if he puts them out there or not. But anyway, just wanted to bring that little tidbit up about the Church of the Holy Sepulchre before moving on, just because there's been a lot of people online saying, if it weren't for the Jews, we wouldn't have the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. That's not really the way it works. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.